Hello and welcome to Forever Box for today's video. It's a Wednesday, which means it is your Rassie report. And today we're going to be doing a sort of top 5 under 23 rookie sort of challenge that Rassie Rasmus might look to try and blood this year. Now, at 23 years old, or under 23 really, you very much play for the future, but a player that could be for the now if you're at the right level in 2 years' time, where you'll be a max of 25 years old, but some of the guys will be sort of 23, 24. But the main thing is you can get 2 years of international experience if you kind of become a regular. Now, I don't think any of these players are going to suddenly become regulars, but very much players who are on the radar by virtue of the fact that they were invited to alignment camps. They have kind of been involved in the conversations. And the big thing when you go to an alignment camp is now when you go back to your union, you get given a roadmap of how do I make myself a Springbok? How do I get myself into that mix? And once I become a Springbok, how do I continue to play Springbok rugby? And that's the big sort of equation, isn't it? It's continuously playing so that you're good enough to be on the radar, getting enough selected, and then when you get your opportunity to take it. And the main sort of thing that I think a lot of these players have is versatility, because that is the name of the game in modern rugby. I think gone are the days where, apart from very specialist positions, your props, for example, and maybe scrum halves, probably your only specialist positions these days. To be perfectly honest, that's the reality. Even your hookers, for example, are doing jobs on flanks and the likes of that. Your fly halves are often playing at fullback or inside center. Your wings and centers are becoming more and more interchangeable. Locks and flanks are becoming more and more interchangeable. So it's funny how rugby, which used to be a game of so many different sort of skill set and specialist skill sets, is now becoming a game of athletes. Of people that can do everything. People that can do both, the job of a hooker and a flank, for example, that can stop in between. Somebody that can be as potent at 15 as you can at 10. And I think that we're going to see more and more sort of hybrid inverted commas players, even players that might be able to sort of play on the flank, or maybe even play in the back line. Something like Quaka Smith, who made his debut on the wing, but obviously settled in at 6. And when we name a 6-2 or 7-1 split, he's always on the bench as someone who could run around in the back line where needed. And I talked about the fact that Peter Steph the Toy could do a job on the wing as well. So I think versatility has very much become the name of the game. But let's get into it, shall we? I've got 5 players we want to talk about. First things first, this man over here, Lorenzo Julius. What a season he is having. He's a superb player. He really, really is. And again, I think he's obviously his main position's outside center. He can play inside center. I don't think he's really got the physical attributes to play inside center. He's not a small player, a guy. He's almost 100 kgs, but you look at the way he plays, he's rapid. He's absolutely rapid. So he sort of suits the wing sort of center vibe. Now he's basically been playing out and out as 13 for the Sharks this season. He's amassed almost 800 minutes, playing predominantly other than 13, and he's played off the bench once. So he's gotten a lot of opportunities in that 13 jersey. Very much seems to have made that his own. But if we sort of backtrack it, for example, when he first got called up to the under-20s, he played a lot on the wing, and then moved into the centers when he was sort of that year older. So he can play on the wing as well. He's got the sort of pace and the skill set, and he looks the real deal. He's 20 years old, so plenty of time for him to really develop, but he has been noticed, and I'll tell you what, the way he continues playing, I think it's a matter of time before he does don the official green and gold. The next one is J.H. van Heerden. JF is your long-term block solution, to be honest. He's such an impressive player for his age, because you often see young players sort of coming through in the back line, and because physically they can kind of cope a little bit better. You don't often see 19, 20-year-old locks or flanks and the likes of that, or 8th men, because of physicality point of view. Now we're talking about a 120 kg plus 2 meters tall lock who has the physicality of someone way beyond his years. He's 20 years old. He's played almost 1,000 minutes for the Bulls this season, and he's been playing the number 5 jersey. A couple of games in the 4, but the number 5 jersey. And you look at the options for the number 5 jersey moving forward. Archie Snyman is, you're still going to be around for a while, but Franco Mostert has got limited years left. Malur Diaga has had all the injury issues. So Peter Steph Toys had to go there, a year ago and play in that position. So it is very much a position of concern for the Box. So is number 4, to be honest. I think our long-term locks are something that we're going to need to address. Rion Nokia very much, got himself in the mix and was sort of become the de facto, first choice when your main 4 aren't available. But JF van Heerden, I think, for me, is a really special player. He can play on the flank. He's played there once or twice, but as a proper out-and-out lock, Been very impressed with him, and I think that we can do a lot worse than give him a cap this year. Renaud Ludwig, well, I'll tell you what, you talk about the sort of your Peter Steph du Toit replacement. And unfortunately, we had a couple of players who got opportunities last year. Albert Lowe really took us. I felt Ben Jason Dixon didn't really take it on us. I was really upset about Ben Jason Dixon because I really rate him. And I think that, what he was doing for Stormers was exactly what we wanted to see from the box, but he couldn't really translate that form. You've now got a 22-year-old lock who traditionally came through and played lock. And the nice thing about him as well, he swapped between 4, 5 on the bench as well. But lately, and much more this season, he's been playing on the flank. In fact, this season he's actually not started a single game at lock. And he's got a serious engine about him. He very much models himself on Peter Steph du Toit and the way he plays. So, again, you've now got a player who can play at 7, can play at 5. That becomes a really, really important asset on the bench. Now, he's not massive. He's 110 kg, so he's not quite, the monstrosity that a Peter Steph du Toit is, for example, even a JF and Heerden, he's just mentioned, but very, very mobile. And, if anything else, we saw how Franco Mosso, who's also not the biggest guy, not that he's small, can get through with work rate, and he's got work rate in abundance. So I personally think that he is a lot closer to a potential cap than I think some people might believe, because he's got all of the tools he needs. He's got a lot of experience. He played a lot last season, played well over 1,000 minutes last season, playing 80 minutes week in, week out. He's got a tremendous engine on him, and he's been playing now in the URC. This is his 3rd season, I think, 4th season, in fact. So he's been playing a lot for somebody of his age. I mean, he is 22 years old, and he has got 43 caps for the Bulls, 35 URC games, 8 Champions Cup games, and then 5 games for the junior box. That's his professional career from an international competition point of view. That doesn't include your Curry Cups and the likes of that. So he's got a pretty impressive, he's going to have 50 caps for the Bulls by the end of the season, and he's not even, 23 years old. So it's a really impressive young career, and I think that he, for me, is right up there as some of the players I rate the highest. Probably the most likely, I think, to make a debut out of the list so far is this man, Ethan Hooker. Very interestingly, has played the entire season on the wing to basically accommodate, I suppose, the likes of a Lorenzo Julius, as well as obviously they've got Andre Hesse. They've got lots of centers to do the Sharks, and with a couple of injuries, they've obviously seen best to put him on the wing. What will be interesting next season is when you've now got an Edel van der Merwe in the mix, as well as Michael Solomon-Pimpy, as well as an Ethan Hooker. How do they sort of fit that all in? Because you still got to try and get your Lorenzo Julius into the side, Lekanya Andre Esterhazen, Francois Fenter. So, he's played most of his season on the wing. He coming through, he's predominantly playing in the centers, and last season played inside, outside, and off the bench. This season, he's predominantly played on the wing in the number 11 jersey. But again, he's versatile. He can play 12, he can play 13, he can play on the wing. And that, I think, is a really, really important asset. I think he's really starting to come good in the wing as well. He's scoring lots of tries more recently. He's got, I think it's 5 tries this season so far, of which 6 tries in the season so far, 3 of which have come in the last 4 or 5 games. So building a lot of form. And the main thing, especially from a Springbok point of view, he's massive. He's well over 100 kgs. He's tall, he's powerful, he's not slow either. That's the big thing. He's not sluggish. So he, I think, is a very good life-for-life replacement, potentially for Damien Delendi. And again, having that skill set to be able to play on the wing is going to stand him in really good stead, as is this man who has definitely been doing a lot of work in the last few years in terms of trying to become a Springbok. He came through on the wing, did Slayman Hartzenberg, can play at outside centre. And it's incredible when you look at how much experience he's got. He's 21 years old. It's actually ridiculous how much he's come through so quickly. I mean, he's been playing for Stormers. This is his 3rd full season. And in that first season, he played 1,300 minutes. He played over 1,000 minutes last season, and he's probably played over 1,000 minutes this season. He's got 46 games for the Stormers, and he's 21 years old. And of which he starts 40 of them. He's amassed well over 3,000 minutes of international club rugby. Again, in terms of positions, it's majority on the wing. 37%, 73% of his games have been on the right wing, 16% outside centre, 7% inside centre. So very much a 13-14 type of player, which is you like so Kane and Moody. To a certain degree, a very similar type player. He has got the skill set. I think he's got a lot to learn from a positional point of view, but he's got the skills, I think, to become a top player. And again, at such a young age, if he starts playing Springbok rugby, I think he'll start to get to the gist of it quite quickly. And I think he's got everything he needs to succeed. So those are kind of my 5 rookies that are under 20, the age of 23 that we might see this year. Let me know what other players you would like to see, and who you might see. There's players like a Ethan Bester, who's been invited to the Bok camp. Renzo Duplessis has been invited to the Bok camp, but can't get a game for the Lions. Bit of a weird situation. But what are your predictions on it? And which of these five, which one do you think will get their sort of cap first? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.